Welcome back to the Roundup, everybody. Today it's a pretty crazy episode with a lot to unpack. We've got layoffs at Twitch amid, basically, things not going particularly well. Also, Gamers Network having big layoffs, which, even though you may not have heard of them, it's actually a bunch of sites that you probably know of. Suzuki is going into NFTs, as seemingly is the trendy thing. CD Projekt Red have had to change a bit of their 5-year plan. The Disco Elysium drama is continuing, and via the Australian rating of Starfield, we do know at least one feature that will have to be modded in, but, well, almost certainly will be. But not as certainly as this segue to our sponsor, brilliant.org/Bellular News, where today I can fix a major regret. So Brilliant, as you know, is the best way to learn new STEM fields, which helps you improve your prospects and better yourself, all with their fantastic site and app where the first 200 to click my link get 20% off, and of course, there's a 30-day free trial. Here's the deal for me. After doing 3 sciences for my A-levels, I basically fell off the train, right? I went into the video game side of things. But if it wasn't for video games, I probably would have pursued astrophysics, because that is by far what interested me the most, right? Like, since I was a kid. And Brilliant sure do have that covered. I mean, starting with their module on matter, moving through really, topics that I just love, like stellar evolution, finally ending with a spot of dark energy. I mean, come on, right? That's the stuff that lights my imagination on fire. And it is straight up what I feel I truly missed out on educationally. And it's now made accessible to me via Brilliant, who, unlike how I'm used to learning things like back in school and university, Brilliant are so much more playful and interactive, teaching via fun quizzes that break complex topics down to understandable and approachable formats. It's actually fun. There's just no better way to learn STEM topics. So, be it just following some curiosity like me, or literally just trying to get a higher paid job, a new career, you gotta head up brilliant.org/Bellular News, start with that 30-day free trial, and the first 200 to click my link will get 20% off their annual sub. Alright, thanks everyone, Brilliant are awesome, and yeah, with that then, the layoffs at Twitch. Oh dear.
I mean, it's to be expected, right?
Totally.
I think you see it across everywhere now, every time now they're a bit later than usual. Because all of the tech layoffs and stuff happened at the start of this year in the January and the February. So it's just taken Amazon and Twitch a little while to get around. But this news comes like a couple days after the original founder stepped down. So you're just going, the person who's like, this is my baby leaves, and immediately someone comes in with the machete and just goes, all right, let's lop off what we don't want. It's really unfortunate to see.
Yeah, and I think there's things around this with Dan Clancy that also people are a little bit worried about. So, basically, Emmett Shear stepped down. That does mean that there are no more of the, founding team left at Twitch. They have announced 400 staff are being cut as well. And they've said that basically, number one, they did talk about the current macroeconomic environment, but number two, user and revenue growth has not kept pace with our expectations. So that is the big thing.
That's what I think is very funny, because if you're watching this channel, you'll likely hear not kept pace with expectations, and you'll immediately go, is this like a Square Enix expectations thing where they're complete blockheads and they're like, number go up forever? Number go up very fast. Why not? Like, not dealing with the reality of business or any reality whatsoever. But in this case, you look at Twitch and you go, oh yeah, you can see how it's sort of losing a lot of its cultural capital.
Yeah.
In a way. It's narrowing in a little bit. YouTube's kind of eating its lunch for free a lot of the time with stuff that it's moving towards. And you kind of go, oh, you're literally just behind. How do you expect to grow without revolutionizing? And especially with the growth that they come to expect, because Amazon owned. So obviously Amazon are going to be like, well, we put loads of money into this, and this is the thing that we bought that everyone knows and everyone loves about video games. We need more out of you. And this has been an ongoing story for a long time, how they just need to get more. And they just, for whatever reason, they just can't. And now this, unfortunately, business-wise, it makes sense to have to do this, I think.
So they either need to get more users, or they need to get more revenue from the users that they've currently got.
Yep.
Now, it's the sort of thing with Twitch where directionally, are things going to be better or worse? I would say probably worse, because they need to earn more money and their user growth is falling behind. Of course, we remember the leaks, all the talk of the 50% split, all of that stuff. I think that very obviously comes to mind right now. They're going to need more money. The problem that they just have over YouTube, though, is they're not as well of a diversified business. That's one pretty major issue. Mm-hmm. Their ads platform is not as good as YouTube.
Getting better, I will say.
It is getting better, but it hasn't been as good as YouTube.
Yeah.
There's a decent amount of user and streamer pushback to the whole streaming ad incentives thing. Mm-hmm. And then when you compare to YouTube, like YouTube are slowly adding more features to their things. They have podcasts now that are on channels. I think that's YouTube seemingly wanting people to post their podcast stuff on their main channel rather than have to put it on a second one. Again, I don't really know how well that'll work. YouTube obviously has shorts. So like YouTube has so many things that can feed into your live stream discovery. And from a extracting user growth perspective, YouTube's really good at serving people content that they want to watch. Twitch is not as good as that because, in fairness, it's harder to do that for live streams. I've seen some of the recent data where like YouTube is actually significantly ahead of Amazon Prime. It was like ahead of Amazon Prime, Netflix, and a few others in like in like watch hours or something in the US, which I thought was kind of shocking. But I mean, there it is. YouTube's massive.
Yeah, I will say that's not a shock at all to me because of like how my habits go, and it's a lot easier to watch a lot of 10-20 minute videos than it is to watch like a sit down and watch a 40-minute episode or something. It's a lot more like, it's the same thing as we talked about recently, Steam versus Epic, which is obviously something we've been talking about for years now, but I think that it's the same sort of deal where YouTube is closer to Steam, not as altruistic in how we feel it, not as like overtly positive, but it is the we're going to give you the best user experience we can because we know that's how to keep you here. We'll give you the best user experience. We'll give you discoverability. Whereas Twitch and Epic take the more sort of, oh no, you'll come here for a specific thing and then you'll like that thing and you'll stay for that thing. And it's like, that's perfectly fine, but it is also a relic of the past, which means systemically and systematically based on user behaviors and behavioral psychology, you're just going to lose out over time, which is a little bit like, it doesn't sound nice to frame it that way, but it's literally just reality. So they need to step their game up. And it's unfortunate that if they're cutting costs in terms of employees, now maybe they're cutting from the right areas and going to put more into a little bit more of that. But if this is them just going, oh, well, we can't grow anymore, then by the laws of capitalism, now they're going to slowly decline forever while YouTube continues eating massive chunks out of them, I guess.
Yeah, so it's a rough situation. Now, the really strange thing for the employees is they actually don't know who's being fired.
That's so awful.
Yeah, so the 400 layoff has been announced, but the people working at Twitch do not know who's going to be in that 400. So that kind of sucks. This is an email that was from Dan, who is the new Twitch CEO that was reviewed by Polygon. And the thing there with Dan is he, I think, has been seen as being more of the money guy, less of a kind of, less one with the community. Of course, remember the Twitter threads from DJ Wade and a lot of people who had worked at Twitch no longer work at Twitch and are heavily critical of the company's internal culture. So basically, it's a lot of pretty bad stuff. And certainly for people, on Twitch who have a large enough brand that they're fine no matter where they go. They can go to Kick if they want, or go to YouTube and it'll be grand. But for the people who are maybe those like mid-level streamers or streamers who are only really known within the game that they play, moving platform, unless it is a massive change of a Twitch population moving to somewhere else, that this is certainly going to be a little bit worrying to them. But that's not it for layoffs. So Gamers Network, Gamers Group even, you may not have heard of them, but they own Dot Esports, Destructoid, The Escapist, Twinfinite, and many others. Huge. And they basically had an internal email announcing layoffs, right? This was then passed to Ethan of Kotaku, and basically, right, since the start of 2022, they moved from 55 to 171 staff. Now, I believe that that's not all organic growth. I think a lot of that is inorganic because they had been acquiring.
It's pure acquisition, yeah.
Yeah.
They just walked around buying entire outfits up, going, oh yeah, you, what do? You do the same thing that the others do? Yeah, we'll have you as well, sure. Go for it, why not?
Yeah. So they basically just went, gobble, 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 gobble. We now have all of these outlets. And then they've realized, right? So they basically did an analysis of, okay, of the shit that we do, where's the money coming from? Where's the clicks? And 35% of the content that they were producing was driving less than 10% of their web traffic. Who knows if this will exactly be, the 80-20 principle where 80% of your results are coming from 20% of your articles. Who knows? I mean, maybe that 20% is just all guides, and it's actually not 20%. It's one of the things like SEO guides are the thing that actually makes money. Investigative journalism is not the thing that makes money. That is what is quite challenging. So that they're saying then that overall they grew too fast, and having some content underperform is fine, but they say we cannot maintain such a high level of inefficiency, 1 in 3 articles at present, therefore they, yes, do have to do layoffs. Now, you may see all of this and think, well, fair enough, I suppose. I can see how... But wait. This is all via them gobbling people up. Mm-hmm. So they've kind of just went, acquire. Oh dear, there are operational inefficiencies after we acquired a whole bunch of outlets, many of which have overlap. Mm-hmm. So, kind of bad. One of those situations where it just doesn't feel like competition in the market serving users. It just feels like stuff will be optimized towards, let's be real at the end. It's going to be press releases shoved through GPT, which in fairness, I can sort of understand with what Associated Press does with earning reports. It's going to be that, and it's going to be SEO guides. It's going to be SEO guides that are a bullet point fed through GPT, and that's going to be one person doing that for the entire industry. And they're going to burn out and then quit, and then someone else will do that. And that'll be it, where one person does all of this and makes all of the money for the entirety of the gamers group and everyone else. So I think that's the unfortunate part, where if this is more hobbyist stuff, then, it's not making that much money, but it's keeping the lights on. Sure, people do it. There's even a little bit of a pipeline with games, not maybe journalists, but games editorial writer, games content writer. Then there's a pipeline into narrative design, as we've seen with, oh my God, I can't remember her name. The one who works at Santa Monica now. Alana Pierce? Yes, her. Yeah, there's that. There's a couple others who are kind of doing the same thing a little bit through building relationships and networking. And I would say that survivorship bias. Humondo. Oh yeah, of course. But it's that's one of the things that might be a literal hey, you can do this for a while and then move on. Yeah. Or if you really have investigative chops, you can stick there for ages. But I think it's for the hobbyist side, okay, yeah, sure, this isn't making much money, but everyone's doing it. There's community value there. Everyone enjoys it. It's fine. But then when someone comes in and acquires it for the purpose of going, okay, well, we're going to make a bunch of money out of this, then it immediately goes, well, this needs optimized, which means, that content that wasn't driving much traffic, 10% of traffic is fine if you think of it in the terms of so much of the traffic was SEO guides, which are from people who aren't really paying attention or aren't really part of any community or part of anything there. It's all just, oh yeah, this is where the money is. And then all the other stuff doesn't make money, but it's what everyone enjoys, it's what everyone likes doing. And it's in a hobbyist world, that's completely fine. And we're we'll keep enough money to make the lights on by talking about Elden Ring, and then we'll do whatever we want otherwise. And people are that's sweet. But as soon as this happens, it's no. Once you're acquired, then you can't do it anymore because it's not making money. You get launched into the bin. Yeah. And a lot of this is because the boom with Elden Ring in 2022, that was one game and everyone wanted hundreds, if not thousands of guides for that. So then obviously they saw that and went, wait, the number can be here? If it can go from here to here, surely it can go from here to here. Let's make the number go to here. And then it doesn't work and everyone gets fired. And you're like, anyone could have told you this was going to happen. Yeah. Anyone could have told you. So why did it happen? And that's unfortunate for everyone who's, if not for Gamer Network or Gamers Group buying everything up, the job would probably be intact. Unfortunately. Yeah. And then you wonder, why does Dexerto just repost live stream fails, basically? Keep the lights on, money. Yeah. Sucks. Mm-hmm. As an example, the Dot Esports investigative division, people have been saying, is likely scuppered as well. So overall, that's really all quite bad. Sure the next thing then is something that we have seen, and it is that Virtua Fighter is back. But Yu Suzuki's doing it in NFT form. The monkey's paw curled somewhere. Yep. Someone's like, man, I'd really love a Virtua Fighter. And whatever force overlooks the universe went,
You shouldn't have said that, because
So,
obviously, like,
This is all with that Oasis thing that we've been talking about before. And yes, it is a range of NFTs that will include 11 characters from the first 3 Virtua Fighter games into Oasis's creative worlds, creating unique and exciting experiences for new and old fans of Virtua Fighter alike. These NFTs will serve as the base for future metaverse avatars. Woo!
not even current ones, future ones. Class.
Oh man, it's like just download a model for VR chat. Done.
Yeah,
Done. If you wanted to feel unique, open it up in Blender or something. Modify the texture. You know, what is this shit?
They have something with meaning as opposed to something that has been ascribed to meaning by a load of nonsense. Like, that's just all it is.
It's like, to do this, you need to build the Second Life of 2022. You need to build the true metaverse. Show this as but it's not the metaverse. It's just an MMO.
Yep.
Because all of this metaverse thing is competing shitty IMVU or Habbo Hotel wannabes that end up not being as good as them, while VR chat is just sitting there in the corner going, ha ha, lol.
Yeah, exactly.
We will happily grow off you burning money on MetaQuest 2s while we just make the only metaverse that people are bothering with. It's so silly.
I bet there's...
Look, this is just more bullshit. We thought we'd bring it up because, honestly, funny, and a little bit of a... I don't think the memo has really reached Japan yet.
No, well, that's because they're very slow organizationally to move, because they're slow and rigid. So it's like, okay, by the time we have this spun up, by the time we have the agreements drawn, it's too late and the craze is over. Whoops.
What I want to see happen, purely because I want to see how we deal with the backlash on Twitter, I want Kamiya to launch an NFT project.
Oh, that would be very funny. That would be like a whole week of pure joy for everyone involved in that.
If you don't know, Kamiya is so unhinged on Twitter. I forget what it was, but like, people disagreed with him and he just called them insects.
Oh yeah, he calls people insects if they don't like follow his rules, which he has on his like pinned tweet or whatever. And it's like, here's how to, like, you know, don't speak to me in like different languages or English. Like, if I've answered something before, don't ask me it again. And he'll like link it back to the time he was asked something like 4 years ago and be like, should have checked this. Insect blocked. But he's also been unhinged in other ways, like saying that not saying one of the reasons for it, but just kind of talking about very loosely the new Bayonetta games, or as in the Lost, whatever it's called, and it's like child Bayonetta. It's like, yeah, people will see this cute child, they'll want to have children, there'll be a marriage boom in Japan, the birth rate problem will be solved. Sweet. You're like, Kami, are you? I know that. I hope that's a joke. I hope that was a joke. Otherwise, he's insane. Yeah.
The next thing then, CD Projekt Red are changing their plan, right? Remember, they talked about having their big sort of multi-year plan. They are changing things. So one of the most definitively defined projects in this plan was Project Sirius, which was being led by the Molasses Flood, who are a developer that they acquired in 2021. It was going to have a story-driven campaign and multiplayer elements. It was already confirmed to be in pre-production at the time with about 60 developers, but in an investor filing recently filed that was captured by Game World Observer, things have now changed where they've established an impairment allowance that will deal with the expenses incurred by this project, which basically comes to about $10 million across the end of fiscal year 2022 and the first quarter of fiscal year 2023, and it effectively is a write-off because of the complete restructuring of the project. So it basically just means whatever Project Sirius is, it's being rebooted. And I think this is just one of those things. So many games have those reboots happen, but via the filing, we can actually, we can see the impact of the reboot. Now, there's a Redditor, Awkward96, who detailed some of the original plan for the game. This is based off scraping job listings. So apparently it was stylized, featuring co-op and PvE, a class system, multiple game modes, and social activities, as well as branching and non-linear storytelling, and they were looking for staff with experience working with procedural generation systems. So it does feel like a little bit of everything, and I imagine that this rescope is them just trying to work out, well, okay, but what can we actually ship?
It's all, like, looking at that, that's definitely the case of just, we've got great ideas. Hang on, none of these great ideas will be like a coherent, finishable game, which I think is something that CD Projekt are very aware of. Going, hang on, is this scope right? Will this be done in time? Does this make any sense monetarily? Well, it doesn't look like Cyberpunk, so it's probably fine. So I think they are just kind of going, yeah, it's now's the time, especially as it, like, there's no real negative part of this outside of the thing might not have been quite as smooth at the beginning as you would have immediately hoped, because there's no seemingly layoffs or anything bad happened. Molasses Flood is part of this. It's just, here's some more money written off to kind of give it another shot from the pre-production angle, and that seems pretty much fine. I think it's just a case of, they have a 5-year plan, and then was that October to now, like 6-7 months later, that they changed their plan immediately. And you go, oh, well, that's a pretty bad plan, but then that's the point of plans. You go, here's a plan, we'll do it, and if it doesn't look like it's going to work, we'll change the plan on the fly. So it's like, it's interesting that they are able to act quickly enough to go, yeah, we looked at this, we're not going to let Cyberpunk happen again. We will not spend that much money on a product that's over-scoped. We just won't.
Fair. Okay, the next thing then is the Disco Elysium situation. This is kind of dense, but it's also really bizarre, right? So ZAUM, who are the company behind Disco Elysium, released a press release. In this, they said that the 3 outstanding legal cases against them had been resolved. Now, these were cases brought by ex-key creatives, etc. on the project. There was one from the producer, Kender, that has been resolved, they say, with the repayment of funds to the company and divestment of his shares. He, basically apparently saying, after leaving my full-time role, I filed a lawsuit, which I realized after seeing the facts was misguided. And then they also claimed that the original creatives, who are Robert Kurvitz and Alexander Rostov, that they dropped their own suits because of a lack of evidence. They then also unveiled their photo mode, essentially, for the game that allows some collage features. Some people are like, hang on, you did this press release and you dropped this feature. Are you just trying to be like, there you go, new thing, done? Turns out, though, that Kurvitz and Rostov have actually not stopped their campaign. So they passed a statement to Eurogamer, and this is where it gets strange, saying that they're actually still minority shareholders of the company. They're not just disgruntled employees. And the dismissal of their claims against the studio is part of a larger campaign against them, and that they will be pursuing legal options accordingly. They basically argue that Kender's suit has resulted in the money allegedly being used to buy ZAUM being returned to ZAUM, that, quote, paying back stolen money, however, does not undo the crime here. It does not undo the majority that Compass and Havel have illegally gained in ZAUM.
Some statement.
Now, ZAUM then responded to that, saying that they encouraged, right, Kurvitz and Rostov to make their claims in a court of law, right? And they say, where they'll fall apart under scrutiny. And then they went against that point of Compass and Havel having, big shares by basically saying that Havel is not a direct or indirect shareholder in the studio. And they claim that this basically can be evidenced through the shares of the company that are on the NASDAQ. Right. ZAUM then also returned to their allegations that Kurvitz and Tal were employed by the studio, refusing to do their jobs, creating a toxic workplace, demeaning colleagues, and attempting to misappropriate studio IP. Now, some but not all of these elements were corroborated independently by GameIndustry.biz when they were talking about the environment inside the studio. And then the statement again ends with an invitation for Kurvitz and Tal to take this to court. So basically, the studio is going, come at me, bro, in the court of law. We will take you down. Mm-hmm. All your bullshit will just be exposed to be bullshit. But then the two sort of older key creators are like, nope. We are still going to fight this. And that basically just means that this story is not over. It's unlikely then that the next game that the studio does will be in the... Well, it was unlikely it would be a Disco Elysium sequel anyway. But whether they will do anything with that universe is obviously in a bit of a strange situation because of those two key creatives. Now, overall, it's kind of awkward then because they could have been toxic assholes, but the company still could have done things wrong.
Yeah, that's where it becomes... I just don't know. I love that this is Disco Elysium. It couldn't have happened to a more fitting game, because the fans who very much love the game are very aware of critiquing all of what companies do and the greed of capitalism and all those sorts of things. So it's like, it's the perfect audience to fight back and go, what the hell are you doing with this game? You stole it. You stole the one creative work that these people did, and you're trying to make money off it. So you can see how the story is like, it's perfectly fitting, almost like it manifested itself by being attached to this game in the first place. I think it's interesting because there's so much mess on both sides of it. You can imagine everyone's in the wrong here in some capacity, but it's just like, it's ultimately down to what will happen in the court of law, what evidence can be found. Because I think everyone's clearly done something awful here in some capacity. You don't talk the way you do on either side here unless that's more or less happened. It is unfortunate though that it's like that collage mode added was ultimately like lambasted by a lot of people for just being like, oh yeah, look at that, is that a cool update to our game? Yeah, but to hell with you for what you've done. You've turned this into a mimetic laughing stock of a game as opposed to the serious like bit of art that it once was. And it's just unfortunate that it's not going to get like the respect it deserves as a game, because I haven't played it because it's very long and very complicated. My brain's small, but I think fundamentally I like my 2D action Metroidvanias. That's all I'll say. But I think it's something that should have been able to stand on its own 2 feet. Go, oh yeah, that is uncritically, challenged, fantastic. But now anytime someone mentions it, you go, oh yeah, is that the game that got stolen? You're like, it's a good story for marketing maybe, but it's also bad because you can't wholeheartedly say go buy it, it's great. Because like, go buy it, it's great, asterisk, maybe your money's going to the wrong place.
It's one of those tricky things where I think we would all like to know where we actually stand.
Exactly, yeah.
Because even if the studio's done wrong, if those guys were creating a toxic work environment and being total dickheads, then also that's a problem, right? So it's just challenging. The final thing though is not going to be challenging. It's not going to be challenging at all to modders, and MXR Reviews is going to make a lot of money on his Patreon with those uncensored YouTube videos, because Starfield has been rated in Australia, and we have found out that it has very mild nudity and no sex. Now, see, because of Mass Effect, people associate being in a spaceship with slamming.
Same with Saints Row 4.
And with Saints Row 4. Yeah. Yes, let's bang. Yes, okay, fair enough, Saints Row 4. Anyway, just a funny little light story to finish us off. There's no boinking in Starfield, which is a departure from the likes of Cyberpunk that were trying to be like, hey, this is mature, you can do a bang, even though when that actually happened in Cyberpunk, people kind of felt it was a little bit awkward. As long as we never get a repeat of the bizarre clothed sex of Dragon Age Origins, I think we'll be okay. I have a feeling that in a certain place called Lover's Lab, there will be many user-made solutions to this problem, and who knows, perhaps now that people know a little bit more about the game, the modders will be thinking, oh boy, we got another game to do it in, let's go!
Yeah, that's the fun thing, and I think it maybe part of a wider conversation at some point, but the amount of times you can kind of, especially for Bethesda, because they've been doing this for years with like their modding scenes, all you have to do is like, you throw the pitch, and there will be a modder there with a bat, and it'll be a very interesting looking bat, maybe one of the Saints Row weapons, and they'll knock it out of the park. You set up everything, and then let them go to work with all of the tools in the back end. All that stuff's available, and it's like, now that it's happened for so many games in a row, they're going to be making this game with mods in mind. They're going to be making it going, right, what opportunities can we have? What can we not do that modders will do? What can we not do that's like not going to harm the core experience, but someone will do it for us? You might look at that in a cynical way, where you look at people who like, say, the complete combat overhauls of Skyrim, and you go, oh, they didn't have to put any effort into combat whatsoever. They just had modders do it for them, so people could customize their own game experience based on mods. But I think in this case, it's actually interesting because it would hurt their sales capability if they went for this full thing. It's also not something they're not particularly interested in themselves historically.
Or I would say good at.
Exactly, yeah,
like
that as well.
If this was Obsidian and they were doing Starfield New Vegas, I would say, oh no, let's get the romance scenes in, because there's storytelling there. And that's what Stacey of the Gamer pointed out, like, hey, a key storytelling tool has gone here. It's the sort of thing in Mass Effect you didn't necessarily need you didn't need those scenes to make the relationship thing work. Thing, yeah. But at the end of the day, also, it's Bethesda. Let's be real. They are good at making worlds you want to be lost in. they are less good at making characters you want to be lost with in those worlds.
Yeah, I think I guess a way to put it is like BioWare were good at like handcrafting campaigns, but I think Bethesda are better at making source books. To put it in that sense, where you can play whatever way you want and you can do whatever you want in those games, and you'll enjoy it more rather than doing whatever they have in there for you. Which obviously Skyrim's a good example, because you follow any of the stories and you're like, it's kind of mid, but then you just enjoy the atmosphere. So then modders can do all the work.
Yeah.
All like the work that Bethesda can't really do, and it's sort of not their place. I guess it's
not their strength.
Yeah, it's a little bit like you get your meal from someplace and they just have salt and pepper on the table. It's almost like, obviously not quite to the same extent, because modders have a lot more effort than doing that. But even then, it's a universally positive thing, I think. It's very hard to go, Bethesda, you're not doing this because you're letting the modders do it. That's very lazy of you. You could maybe argue that in some capacity when it comes to what portion of their success comes from mods and how much of the modders not rewarded for that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you made a cool ass world. People did stuff in it and you let them do stuff in it, so that's fair enough. Yeah. It's like, nice.
Yeah, so overall, I mean, that's essentially it. It'll be interesting to see. Certainly, it is a game that, big picture, I'm really, down for. I like the tone and the approach that it's taking. So, broadly speaking, I'm actually pretty excited.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It's been so long.
It's not your kind of game, though.
It's not my kind of game,
It's not your kind of setting.
Yeah, it's neither my game nor my setting, but I absolutely loved Oblivion and Skyrim and New Vegas and most of Fallout 3. So I'm sat here and like, will this be a Bethesda game that actually makes me go, oh yeah, a Bethesda game made by Bethesda? Nice, as opposed to what I have been doing, which is, Bethesda game not made by Bethesda whatsoever, but by one of the other studios. I'll have that instead. Hello, Hi-Fi Rush. But I think that's just that's a fun thing, where it's going to be such a huge gaming event, but like a universal one. It's like everyone's going to play Starfield. But I'm just like, is this going to be one of the first major gaming events where I'm like, actually, I'm good. I'll sit in the sidelines.
For you, maybe, because you don't like science fiction as much.
I love science fiction.
You don't like the more, I don't want to say realistic, but authentic feeling stuff.
Saying that is authentic, actually, I don't know what, but it sounded like you're insulting me with that.
Oh no, they're their whole thing is they're trying to make it more sort of authentic feeling space, NASA inspired. Whereas I feel like you're more of a stylized and very ideas focused.
Yes.
And so I don't really know if they are going to. I mean, this is Todd Howard who said that the theme of Fallout 4 was androids and suspicion. Where it's like, Todd, that from a story, from a narrative perspective, those ain't themes. No. So who knows? Who knows? At the very least, I'm looking forward to a big sci-fi world.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much that's it for us. Oh boy, Twitch. I wonder how they're going to get themselves out of this one. Of course, a big thanks to our sponsor for supporting us today. And with that said, we'll see you next time.